Dr Nthabiseng Moleko is a development economist at the University of Stellenbosch Business School. Dr Moleko, good afternoon to you. First, 150 billion rand to come from the Reserve Bank's contingency reserve account. Is that money going to go very far if you look at the problems that we face?
Thank you so much for having me. I think the first thing is that it points to one of the windfalls that the government has and is now making use of. It's money that has been sitting in the reserve account that they are by law enabled to make use of. It's money at no interest, and it's a third of what is currently sitting in that account. So I think that given that this is a once-off, one would hope so, that it cannot be a long-term use to bail out the government. It's similar to what we would call the tax windfalls from commodity prices going up 1 year ago. That also bailed out government in that what you continue to see is the constrained growth environment. So revenue doesn't pick up, and so the shortfall has to be met somewhere.
So this is really the question, isn't it? It's not doing it once, it's whether that is just the beginning. I mean, we really can't do it again next year, and we'll probably, I'm afraid, face similar problems next year.
So remember, it's about the fluctuations in the currency. And I think you're right in terms of the not doing it once. The question is really, what is the government doing to grow the economy so that the revenue base expands and that the expenditure doesn't look like it's contracting? So what you see as a proportion of GDP from the budget review, we are spending for the next 3 years, 2024 up to 2027, 27% of GDP. This is constant. It fluctuates by 0.2 or 0.3 percentage points. In terms of expenditure, it also remains very flat at around 31%, 31.8%. It fluctuates of GDP. Now, what this means is that the budget balance, which is your budget deficit, it has gone up. We have seen the minister in his own speech admitting that it has increased from 4 to 4.9%. So we are spending more than we are collecting. And not only that, the budget deficit is widening. In the estimates for the out years, he is saying, as he has said previously, that it will go down to around 3%, 3.3%. This is unlikely to occur. Why am I saying that? If your growth projections do not materialize, which they haven't, we've seen growth downwardly revised from 3% to 1.8%, now to 0.6% in the last year. Growth is now sitting at the region of around 0.5, 0.6, 0.9, depending on which economic review you put your emphasis on. And it does look like we are unlikely to see any growth coming from the key growth drivers. And so you're likely to be stuck with a revenue collection sitting at around 2 trillion, which is not going to grow at the same rate that it's needed to decline that budget deficit.
So if we look at the budget and we look at the situation around us, we have really no economic growth. We have a growing population. We're going backwards if you look at our population and our economic growth. We have youth unemployment at 59.4, I mean, let's call it 60%. Is there anything in the budget that suggests that our economy is actually going to grow? Is there anything to help the economy grow in the budget?
The reality is that the budget speech has become more about accounting in terms of where the allocation or the division of revenue will go, how much so far we have spent, that's the medium-term budget policy statement, and who gets what. So whether or not education or social expenditure or police and so forth get more, what the provinces get, and what the equitable share allocations and how local government is also included. What we haven't seen from the budget is the political will to have inclusive growth. I think this is very imperative because this would change the growth story. What we haven't seen from the budget is how unemployment will be dealt with. We saw yesterday unemployment has gone up. What this effectively means is that the 6 of the 9 provinces remain economic wastelands. And so the problem of visioning a new South African economy that includes the excluded, that includes the growth of SMEs and enterprises. We currently see the job creation, which is the allocation to all the different departments in the economy, similar to what has been in the last 5 years for this administration. It hasn't reinvigorated, I would say, the economic resuscitation of industries, of industrialization, of agriculture. where you see economic activity really constrained, particularly Northwest, Northern Cape, Mpumalanga, Eastern Cape, Limpopo, and you see the continuation of the patterns that we have seen. So I think we need a vision, Stephen. I think we need more efforts into reinvigorating what must be done for growth at a political and even at a strategy level. I think the accounting we get, we are trying to manage the budget balance. There are forecasts that are reliant on the budget review that has to be published at this point. I think what we need, though, is the energy and the excitement around revisioning and revising what needs to be done to increase and improve household consumption. What must be done to increase and improve trade? What can be done to enhance GDP? We haven't gotten that ever from the budget speech, unfortunately.
Dr Nthabiseng Moleko, thank you. Development economist at the Stellenbosch Business School.